Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Satan's Slaves Communion. It's a Shudder original and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, November 4th. This is a follow-up to the original film Satan's Slaves, which I have not seen, also by Joko Anwar, who I've seen a few films from. I've seen Impetigore and The Queen of Black Magic, which I believe are still on Shudder at the moment. So if you have not seen those are definite need to watches, and I would say definitely watch this film as well. I didn't like this film as much as either of those two films I just said, but I did still really enjoy it, and I think it's definitely worth watching big time. Especially because as, film buffs, we need to kind of shed more of a light on foreign horror films because they just don't get enough time. They don't get enough attention, in my opinion. And for a filmmaker like Joko Anwar to be putting stuff on Shudder, it's a big deal. Like, his stuff always looks phenomenal. And that's one of the big things. It looks phenomenal in here. But let me talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Let's get to this. Written and directed by Joko Anwar, like I said, who did Impetigore, The Queen of Black Magic, the first Satan's Slaves, which, disclaimer, I don't think I already said this, but disclaimer, I haven't seen yet, but I need to see. I was going to try to get to seeing it before watching the sequel, but I will say honestly, I'm sure I'm missing a little bit because of the connection between the two films, but without having seen the first film, I still really enjoyed this film, so just saying. He's also done Jakarta Undercover, Dead Time, and Ritual, just to name a few. Once again, this is an Indonesian film, so it is subtitled, and there is, I'm a slow reader when it comes to subtitles as well as books and magazines and everything. So there were times where it was a little fast for me, and it just really comes down to how fast are characters talking. Like, some of the characters, and for the most part, they speak relatively slow. There's some stints of, nobody talking, so it's a lot easier to kind of keep up. But there are some moments where some characters are kind of having back and forth. They're talking a little bit fast. So if you are a slower reader like me, it may be a little bit challenging at times. Quick synopsis on this one, but first to reiterate, Shudder Original coming Friday, November 4th. This is a no spoiler review, but just to give you a quick synopsis. Not going to tell you about the opening scene, because that will give away some, stuff going on in the film, but it's basically about a bunch of people who live in a government-owned apartment building that looks like it's basically out in the middle of nowhere. And it's about kind of the people living there, and then something really major happens that is not good at this place. And then things get even worse and weird, and not going to go any further than that because I don't want to ruin anything. But trust me, it's definitely worth watching. It looks amazing. That's the first thing to know. Outstanding camera movements and shot framing. Lots of use of negative space, which actually makes you feel like there's something else there, especially because there are many moments where the lighting is done just for what you need to see character-wise, and then there's a lot of darkness around it, which when you're using negative space and wider shots, that'll create this kind of feeling what's lurking in those extra spaces. Why is the filmmaker showing us so much space? There might be something in there. And I think sometimes it will get used, and sometimes it doesn't get used. And I think that's great because the moments it's not getting used still have you on edge. It's a great way to build and maintain tension, and this film does that. But it looks phenomenal. It's very well directed, very great cinematography. It is a gorgeous film. And that's a Joko Anwar thing. Everything I've seen from Joko Anwar looks amazing. It is quite a creepy, mysterious beginning to the film. I love the opening sequence of the film before the title. Very cool, very intriguing. Really enjoyed that. At times, characters do talk pretty fast. Like I said, you got to be a faster reader at times. But for the most part, you'll be all right. Really good acting. I don't think anyone did a bad or subpar job in this. I think all the acting was good to quite good. And there are some young actors in this, so that is saying a lot. Great writing. The characters, relationships, and dialogue all feel very, not only realistic, but very interesting. And even just having interactions between characters, it's building who those people are, and you really understand them, you understand their relationships, and it just all feels real, and you feel invested in it. It's very engaging, so really good writing. They don't wait long to make things feel off and creepy, and that's one of the big things. They create this like dark, creepy atmosphere to the film, and it is maintained very well, like throughout, pretty much throughout the entire film. Tension, pretty high throughout the film, which I love. Some very effective jump scares and just downright scary moments in this one. I don't get like a very like tense kind of like dread-filled feeling when I watch a lot of horror films because I've watched so many. But if the scenes are constructed right, like they are in this film, there are literally moments where I was on edge. There are moments that they got me with jump scare because they were extremely well done. It's just really well pulled off, and it's the camera work, it's the lighting, it's the acting, and it's the sound design, and it's the music. It is everything. They use everything at their disposal to really make this work. Joko Anwar doing it right. There are some cool free-floating camera sequences that give you the feel of it being kind of like an ethereal type film. Basically like a camera moving throughout the apartment complex that doesn't feel like it's tethered to anything. And it also makes it kind of feel kind of a little bit Evil Dead-ish, but way more smooth, where maybe this is something. Like it's an actual like entity or person or whatever. So I think that was really cool. Excellent score. Like I said, the music's used very well in this. It's a really good score. Very well composed. Went very well with everything going on in the film. There's something big and terrible that happens and you see it coming, but how it's filmed, drawn out, and the music that's used that builds just makes it so tense while you're waiting for it to happen, and it makes it so much worse when it actually does happen. And the aftermath is where a lot of things kind of go from. And how big this event felt and how terrible this event felt and how intense and horrible it was meant a lot to the film. And I just love the way it was executed. You'll know what I mean if you've seen it. There's some humor mixed in. Not a lot, but there's a little bit of humor that gets thrown in here or there. It's for people who like that stuff. Doesn't matter to me with a film like this because it's just really well done. The lighting in this adds so much. Love what they did with the lighting. It's usually pretty limited, and it allows you to see what you need to see while dreading basically what's in those dark spaces. Kind of like when I was talking about the use of negative space along with the lighting. It makes you feel like you kind of like are one of the characters. Like you can only see and experience what's going on in that lighted space, and everything else outside of it just seems kind of like dangerous and unknown, like it is for the characters in the film. So very effective with the lighting. A lot of times in film, lighting is just like basic, you know, like, okay, everything's lit well enough, you can see what you need to see. But when lighting is used like this, it's used on a different level. And I really appreciated that. There are scenes that feel like they go on a bit too long, in my opinion. And this film is like 2 hours, basically. I think it's 1 hour and 58 minutes with credits. So it does feel like it drags a little bit at times. Not too bad, though. And it is more of like dragging towards the end of the film. Really great pacing up until probably like the end third, maybe. And then there are moments, it's not consistent, but there are moments where it slows down a bit too much. So if it was tightened up a little bit, it would be, you know, like perfect almost. But yeah, a little bit of pacing issues here and there, but nothing terrible. It is pretty crazy at the end. Like, I didn't love the ending. I thought the ending was good, but the way it's filmed and some of the events that go on, it's a pretty crazy ending. So a lot of people will end up enjoying that. This is a longer film with slower pacing, but there is also a lot to keep you engaged when there aren't those moments where you feel like, oh, this definitely is going on too long. Like I said, it's beautiful. You know, like the acting's really good. The lighting is very interesting. The camera, the shot framing, the camera movements, very interesting. You know, the music is really good. So like, even when it does feel like it's slowing down more than you want it to, there's a lot to look at. There's a lot to keep your eyes on it and keep you engaged. So that says a lot. This film speaks to the lengths some will go to, for their future and family. It also speaks to the impact of secrets that those people end up keeping. And I'm trying to keep it intentionally very vague, obviously, but if you've seen the film, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about there. But really good film. I really did enjoy it. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give it a very good 4-star rating. But know that I was very close to giving it 4.5 stars. But because of those kind of like pacing issues and the ending could have been a bit better, I feel like I am going on the side of 4, but I heavily considered 4.5. So just know that. So highly recommend this film. Definitely see it. Would love to hear your thoughts on it when you've seen it. Go ahead and put it in the comments. And we can do spoilers in the comments. Go ahead. Also, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate it. It is very quick and easy for you to just do that. And it's the best way to repay me if you like any video I've ever done, including this one. Also hit the notification bell button because then you know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing at least 4 a week at this point, which is a good amount. And yeah, thanks very much for taking your time to watch this video. And until next time, keep it brutal.